3 title sponsors walked away from the PGA Tour in a single calendar year, and the commissioner just called it a great time for the sport. Rocket companies, 13 years gone. Farmers Insurance, 17 years gone. Sony, gone. The Hawaii events are off the 2027 schedule entirely. That is the chaos nobody in that Travelers Championship press conference wanted to name out loud. The 2-track system the Tour just approved will pay Challenger Series players a minimum of $4 million per event. Current non-signature events, the ones being effectively demoted, were paying $9 million. That is not elevation. That is a 50% pay cut wearing a new logo. Rory McIlroy said the quiet part loud at Shinnecock, then walked it back 4 days later like someone had a very specific conversation with him between rounds. Jack Nicklaus, whose tournament has anchored this calendar for 50 years, told reporters at his own event that he is not in favor. That is not locker room whispers. That is 11 stars and counting and full revolt. And the commissioner is somewhere between a press release and a panic. If you want the real version of this story, not the official one, hit subscribe right now. Now let's talk about who actually wins under this structure. Here is the thing about a system designed around meritocracy. The people who design it almost always make sure they are already on the right side of the line before the rules go live. Tour Championship Series retains the top 90 players automatically every season. That number was not chosen randomly. It was chosen because it covers every meaningful name in the game right now. Every player with a major, every player with a signature win, every player whose face moves a needle commercially. The top 90 is not a performance threshold. It is a protection clause written in performance language. Everyone below that line, players who have spent years grinding through opposite field events, building careers tournament by tournament, now faces a relegation system that did not exist in professional golf 12 months ago. And the man whose name is on this system more than any other is Tiger Woods. Tiger chaired the 9-member Future Competition Committee that designed this structure. Patrick Cantlay, Maverick McNeely, Keith Mitchell, Adam Scott, Camilo Villegas, all player representatives, all comfortably inside the tier that benefits most from what they built. Alongside them sat Theo Epstein, the former Chicago Cubs executive who turned a championship drought into a dynasty through data and structural discipline. That combination, elite players plus a front office architect, tells you exactly what kind of system was going to come out of those meetings. What makes this moment stranger is when Tiger chose to announce it. His first public appearance since his DUI arrest in March 2026 was not a press conference about his health, his comeback, or his tournament. It was a podium at TPC River Highlands, standing next to CEO Brian Rowlap, presenting the most significant structural overhaul in PGA Tour history. The tweet that followed was carefully worded. Honored to stand alongside Brian Rowlap today. It has been a privilege to lead the Future Competition Committee, and I am proud of the work we have. And then it cut off. The sentence never finished. The post ended mid-thought, like someone decided the ellipsis was enough. That truncated tweet became the first thing golf fans noticed. Not the announcement, the unfinished sentence from a man whose entire public identity has been built on total control of every word, every image, every appearance. Tiger does not do unfinished, so either the truncation was a platform glitch that nobody corrected, or it was the most deliberate accident in the history of golf communications. Either way, Tiger's core instinct was always obsession and control. He did not come back from a car crash, 2 back surgeries, and a DUI arrest to stand at a podium and endorse something he did not architect. This system has his fingerprints on every clause. The top 90 protection, the elimination of sponsor exemptions, the promotion and relegation structure that rewards exactly the kind of sustained excellence Tiger defined for 2 decades. Whether you believe he designed it for the good of the game or for the comfort of the tier he has always occupied. Does both. Things can be true at the same time. Now let's talk about the moment this whole story cracked open. Shinnecock Hills, the 2026 U.S. Open, the biggest stage of the American golf summer. Rory McIlroy walks into the press conference and somebody asks him about the 2-track model. Rory is 6-time major champion at this point. He is not a fringe voice raising concerns from the outside. He is the most commercially significant active player on the PGA Tour, the face of Nike Golf, the player whose schedule decisions move TV ratings. And what he said in that room sent a shockwave through the sport that no press release could contain. Glorified Korn Ferry event. 5 words, that is all it took. Within hours, every major outlet had the quote. ESPN ran it as a segment headline. Golf Channel looped the clip. The golf corner of social media, which had been cautiously debating the 2-track proposal for weeks, suddenly had a phrase to rally around. Fans who had never heard of the Challenger Series suddenly understood exactly what it meant, because Rory had given them a reference point they already knew and already respected less. Rory's core identity has always been hunger and heartbreak. He is the player who feels the sport most personally out of everyone at the top of the game. He does not deflect, he does not manage, he says what he actually thinks, and sometimes it costs him. That quote cost him something, because 4 days later, he issued a written statement calling the changes a positive step for the sport, praising the tour for reaffirming the importance of meritocracy. Using the exact language Rolap had used at the podium, nobody asked Rory to clarify. He volunteered that reversal. He published it himself. In those 4 days, the tour's formal announcement had dropped. The full structural details were public. Maybe Rory genuinely read the fine print and changed his mind. But the speed of the pivot, the formality of the language, the fact that it arrived as a written statement rather than a casual comment, that is not how Rory McIlroy changes his mind. Rory changes his mind in press conferences, mid-answer, out loud, while still figuring it out. A written statement is something else. A written statement is a managed position. The most honest thing Rory said in this entire period did not get nearly as much coverage as the Korn Ferry line. He said quietly that as they had done all this work, he had started to realize that the way the tour was structured before LEV came along was actually pretty good, that the old structure worked pretty well. That sentence is the real tell, because it means the player who has been the most visible advocate for keeping the tour together through the LIV war, the player who sacrificed his own schedule flexibility and his own political neutrality to fight for the tour's survival, that player is now looking at what the tour has become and wondering what exactly he was fighting to protect. Jack Nicklaus gave him company at the Memorial Tournament, his tournament, the event he has hosted for 50 years, the week of its golden anniversary. But Nicklaus told reporters he was not exactly in favor of what the tour was doing. He did not want to comment on the schedule, he said. Then he commented on the schedule for several minutes. He said he hated seeing tournaments bunched too closely together. He said big events needed room to stand on their own. He said jamming the entire season into 6 months and leaving the rest of the year empty was tough on players who needed time to recharge. He said he thought it was going to be a problem if we don't address it. Nicklaus has 18 major championships and the kind of institutional authority in this sport that nobody, not Rolap, not Tiger, not the policy board, can simply dismiss. When he says he is not in favor, it does not read as an old man resisting change. It reads as the person who has seen more versions of professional golf than anyone alive, telling you he recognizes a structural mistake when he sees one. Now follow the money, because that is where the real story lives. 3 title sponsors left the PGA Tour in 2026. Rocket Companies ended a 13-year run with the Rocket Classic, a relationship that began in 2014 and had survived every storm the tour faced during the LIV era. Industry observers pointed directly at the company's reluctance to commit to new tiered pricing as the reason. Farmers Insurance ended a 17-year association with the event at Torrey Pines. Sony pulled out of Hawaii, and both Hawaii events are off the 2027 schedule entirely. Those are not small departures. Those are 3 organizations that stayed through the worst years of tour instability, through the LIV defections, through the proposed Saudi merger, through the Jay Monahan era's most chaotic months, and chose to exit now, at the precise moment the tour is announcing its boldest vision for the future. The ask being placed in front of sponsors is not modest. Championship Series events require a commitment of $30 million or more annually. Track 2 events are being pitched to sponsors at $12 to $15 million per event, with smaller fields, players outside the top 120, and no network television coverage, according to reports. One industry source described the pitch plainly. Sponsors are being asked to pay more for more risk on Track 1 and the same money for less prestige on Track 2. That is a difficult conversation to have when three of your longest-standing partners just handed back their keys. Rolap said it publicly that the tour had received numerous unsolicited inbound expressions of interest and financial offers that confirmed confidence in the economic model. That may be true. But the FedEx Cup, the financial engine of the tour's postseason since 2007, the brand attached to the playoff structure that every fan knows by name, was not mentioned once in the announcement, not in the press release, not at the podium, not in any of the follow-up coverage driven by tour communications. A billion-dollar partnership that has defined the back half of the tour season for nearly 2 decades simply did not come up. That omission is not an accident. It is a signal. When a sports organization announces the most sweeping structural change in its history and does not mention its most significant commercial partner by name, it means those conversations are unresolved. It means the postseason that Rolap described, the match play format, the rotating courses, the reimagined Tour Championship, does not yet have confirmed commercial backing at the level the current system has. Meanwhile, the players who are not in those rooms, not on the Future Competition Committee, not on the Player Advisory Council, are processing the same announcement fans are processing. Colin Morikawa, a 2-time major champion who spent most of 2026 battling a back injury and fighting to stay competitive, found his name attached to an ESPN segment titled Colin Morikawa on PGA Tour relegation. Not a win, not a comeback, relegation. That is what the new vocabulary of professional golf sounds like for a player ranked inside the world's top 30. One industry insider described the broader mood with a phrase that did not make any official press coverage. Almost everyone is ticked off. Players did not want their schedules restructured. Tournament hosts feared being demoted to Track 2 and losing the stature that their events had taken decades to build. The framing from inside the industry was not that this felt like evolution. It felt rushed, and it felt punitive toward the middle tier of players and events that never caused the problems this restructuring was supposedly designed to solve. Live Golf is sitting in the background of all of this. Structurally weakened, losing its Saudi public investment fund, backing after 2026, shopping for new investors, facing its own existential questions. The tour had every reason to project stability and strength during this window. Instead, it chose to redesign itself completely, while the commercial foundations underneath that redesign are still being negotiated. The system does not launch until 2028. That is the gap nobody is talking about enough. Between now and then, the tour has to finalize which 23 to 24 events make the championship series, secure sponsorship for all of them at the new price points, resolve FedEx's postseason role, announce the Korn Ferry pathway into the new structure, and run a full 2027 season under the old model, while everyone in professional golf operates in the knowledge that their status, their tournament's status, and their sponsors' commercial relationship all hang on decisions that have not been made yet. The media rights deal expires in 2030. Rolap knows the new system needs to be working, visibly working, producing the drama and the ratings and the commercial value he promised at that Travelers Championship podium before he sits down with NBC and ESPN and CBS and negotiates the deal that funds the next decade of professional golf. That is what this is really about. Not the meritocracy, not the promotion and relegation, not the match play postseason or the rotating tour championship venue. Those are features. The product underneath them is a sport trying to prove it is worth more than it is currently being paid. And the window to prove that is tighter than any press release will admit. The revolt is real, whether it is 11 voices or 30, whether it stays in written statements and press conference answers or finds a louder form before 2028. The people who built the PGA Tour's commercial and competitive identity are telling you clearly that this does not feel right yet. The question is whether the tour listens before the sponsors stop asking. If this gave you something to think about that the official coverage did not, subscribe and drop your take in the comments, because the conversation about where professional golf is actually heading is just getting started.